We've got the first pictures on air, Aditya. You can keep going, but we've got the first pictures on air of the Prime Minister arriving at the venue for that. Vishnu, this is the Prime Minister arriving at the venue for that bilateral.
Yeah. Remember, it's not taking place at the SCO venue, as Aditya was mentioning. It's taking place in the hotel where President Xi is. Prime Minister Modi has gone in over there, and with his delegation. So these are the very first pictures, and we've got it first on NDTV of the Prime Minister of India arriving in Tianjin in the hotel where President Xi is, where the talks have now been going on for the last 28 minutes.
So the first pictures, Aditya, the Prime Minister arriving for the bilateral. We'll have the picture of the handshake any moment now, Aditya.
Well, absolutely. The first picture breaking here on NDTV of Prime Minister Narendra Modi arriving for the first big bilateral, the handshake between the tiger and the dragon, the tango that happens within those 40 minutes of meeting that is taking place right now. But Shiv and Vishnu, you asked me a question about the bilateral, what really happens, who all are there. Most of the things that happen during the bilateral are already discussed. But this is a last-minute approach by the top leaders to have that kind of a bonhomie, and that bonhomie result in some kind of a positive measures that could be announced at the last minute. But most of the other stuff, the diplomatic stuff, has been discussed by either the foreign secretaries or the diplomats at the lower level or the ambassadors as such. Apart from Prime Minister Narendra Modi, NSA Ajit Doval is very much here. We have the India's ambassador to China, Mr. Rawat here. And apart from that, Vikram Misri, the foreign secretary, is also here in attendance. There are counterparts. We saw the visual of the China's ambassador to India, also welcoming Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday. As I said, there is a huge question mark whether External Affairs Minister Jaishankar is here or not, because there were some reports that he would be traveling to Europe. We'll have to wait for the visual of the meeting to come to confirm that. But these are the first visuals amid the tariff announcement of Trump. Of Prime Minister Narendra Modi now not just reaching China, but approaching...
Okay, we've got live pictures. Aditya, first live pictures of the meeting here. There's no audio in these pictures, so we're going to talk over them. Okay, there is no audio, just so our viewers know that there is no audio in these pictures. That's Prime Minister Modi along with Xi Jinping. First images of the handshake again here on NDTV of the two leaders shaking hands and their two delegations sitting down for this very, very important bilateral. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval is also visible there in those pictures along with Prime Minister Modi. Wang Yi is there with the Chinese president. These are the first pictures of that bilateral. There's a quick glimpse of the handshake between the two leaders, which we'll put on your screen also in just a minute. Vishnu, first pictures.
I would assume the Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri is there as well, but this is just historic. It's the first time you've got an Indian Prime Minister in China since the Galwan clashes of 2020, which were fatal clashes. And the fact that you've got them sitting down in conversations, in talks, that is absolutely huge, what is taking place. Now, let's be realistic, as we've been saying, that, don't expect very much. But I think the fact that you've got the leaders talking to each other, it's been preceded by a huge process, which has resulted in them coming to the stage, a process where the special representatives on the border issue have met Wang Yi and Ajit Doval, where both the leaders have said that, we have decided on all sorts of mechanisms to deal with the boundary issue, but we leave it now up to our political leaders to give us the guidance let us expect an early harvest, quote unquote. These are the words which have been used. Will there be that early harvest? I would suspect it may not be something very large on the border or boundary issue. If there is something, I would suggest it's on a part of the border or boundary, but perhaps it may not be that. But I will tell you what is likely to happen. Further statements on, trade between India, air travel, religious sites, more of them opening up in China. The Chinese have no problems with that per se. We expect more of that taking place, which would be in the context of the relationship very, very big. But it's the economic part of the relationship, the trade, the rare earths, the fertilizers, the chemicals, the electronics. India needs all of that. China is a world leader in manufacturing over there. Despite all of the problems that we've had with China, remember throughout this period, trade between India and China at many levels has continued. It's not enough to say that, we switched off TikTok and therefore the relationship from an economic standpoint went off. That's not the case. Shiv, I would like to know what actually happens of TikTok.
Yeah,
if you ask me, that's a fairly low-hanging fruit to be sorted out over.
Not just a low-hanging fruit, but one of possibly the widest possible interest, when it comes to populations across the country. Because let's face it, this is a young country. The banning of TikTok took a heavy toll on the online community as well. There has been talk about TikTok being unbanned. There was a rumor recently which the government actually denied. But
some people got it.
Is that even on the table? We don't know. We don't know if that's on the table, Vishnu. But if it is, it's no small thing. TikTok is a huge
it connects millions of people around the world.
We don't know if it's on the table, but it's big. Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen that soon, quite frankly, because there's that entire concern in India at so many quarters about Chinese IT systems and social media infiltrating into the Indian setup and the impact that may have. Some of the fears are exaggerated. Some of them perhaps may not be. That's another sort of aspect of all of this. But just look at the pictures. I mean, who would have thought, 5 years after our soldiers were killed in action, Chinese soldiers killed in action in Galwan, there would be this situation where they're shaking hands. But Shiv, this is the point I was making. It's not a massive, there's no hug over there, right, which is Modi style. There's nothing beyond a polite, courteous gesture among two, very formal. Very formal
Usually
is how I would characterize this. Very businesslike, right? And then getting down, a hand of friendship, a formal welcome, then both sides getting down, delegation level talks.
And Vishnu, also remember one thing, very formal, very procedural in many ways, cordial of course, polite. They both got smiles on their face.
And that's it, nothing more than that.
And we will read much into body language, even though Xi Jinping tends to be quite an inscrutable leader. This is a country that plays a lot of mind games. These things are usually never representative of what's really happening beneath. Okay, Ambassador Ashok Kantha is with us. He's just come out with a book as well on India-China relations. Ambassador Kantha, very warm welcome to you. You've joined us live just as these pictures have dropped in, sir, of the handshake between Modi and Xi Jinping. I'm not sure you can see the pictures yourself, but you can well imagine.
No, I can see pictures.
You can see the pictures. Tell us, tell us what's going on. How do you read what's happening between the two leaders in this sort of photo op, but also the larger question of what you're expecting from this engagement, sir?
Well, photo op, I think Vishnu has characterized it quite well. It's a sort of business-like, matter-of-fact handshake. Neither side showing too much exuberance. I think that's very befitting. It's an important meeting, no doubt about it. The Prime Minister is visiting China after a gap of 7 years and under unusually difficult circumstances when our relations with the USA are under considerable stress and there is a process of rebuilding relations with China which is unfolding. But this is going to be a step-by-step process. There are difficult challenges. I heard earlier you discussing TikTok and those apps which were banned. That is just partly illustrative of the nature of problems, but partly also concerns we have vis-a-vis China. Security concerns, other concerns. So this will take time. What we are doing now, as I can understand, a dual track approach. On one side, we are putting greater primacy on border related issues. During last meeting of special representatives, we agreed to explore, early harvest and also, start the process of discussions on principles of de-escalation. And in parallel, we will move ahead with what we call people-to-people contacts and economic engagement. But if I could just enter a word of caution there, since you were referring to early harvest earlier, this is something we had explored with China. This is a Chinese proposal. At that time, it was limited to Sikkim sector alone. And after very careful consideration, we had turned down the proposal.
No, but Ambassador
Because we didn't see.
Kanta, could you clarify? Sikkim has a border, right, with China?
Yes.
And Nathula Pass is the major pass through which where the border stands, and then east of that, of course, is Doklam, which is Bhutan, as far as we are concerned. So, in terms of low-hanging fruit, or what the Chinese actually call early harvest, those words find mentioned in our agreement, in our document as well. What are the other parts of the boundary which can be made into a border?
Vishnu, if we go as per understandings contained in Agreement on Political Parameters and Guiding Principles, April 2005, I happen to be lead negotiator for that. It envisages a package approach where we look at all sectors of boundary. We were not inclined to look at piecemeal approach limited only to Sikkim sector. As a via media, we had discussed possibility. At the minimum, we must settle both Sikkim and middle sector. Then we can leave eastern sector and western sector.
This is absolutely amazing. We've got the person who led the negotiations in the 2005 India-China boundary question on our screens right now, and that's what's been referred to in all of the sort of mentions, documents a couple of days back. So the parameters and guiding principles for settlement. The fact, Ambassador Kanta, that they're actually talking about that, right? Because everything was thrown away after Galwan is by itself significant, right?
I think that's very significant that, the consensus which was reached between National Security Advisor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi in their capacity as the respective special representatives in boundary question reaffirmed Agreement of 2005 on political parameters and guiding principles. So essentially, it involves a negotiated political settlement. And certain principles and parameters have been agreed, and we should adhere to them. I think they are very important, and from our point of view, they are good markers.
But Ambassador Kanta, in as much as you talk about the 2005 agreement, which was of course landmark, we've seen the Chinese violate that in letter and in spirit through salami slicing of territory, not just territory India claims, but look at what's happening in Bhutan, across the Himalayan frontier. It's something I've spent years outlining through satellite imagery. It is an absolute fact. So, is there willingness to go back, sir, to 2005? Is it an acceptance of the fact that what they've been doing will stop?
No, I'm not at all convinced that that's going to stop. I think we have to go by their action on ground rather than their sort of assurances. And action on ground has not been very encouraging, though of late I must say that the border areas are relatively peaceful, but there has been no progress toward de-escalation. So we still have troops deployed in very high numbers, which is not a happy situation. So the point I'm trying to make that some people are arguing in terms of reset in relations. I think that will be unrealistic. Some people are arguing that there must be a sort of Russia, India, China strategic convergence to counter USA. Again, that doesn't quite gel with objective realities. So let's improve relations with China. Let's seek what Prime Minister called stable, productive, and constructive relationship with China, which is very important, but with our eyes wide open.
All right, we've got some
audio from that meeting. Let's listen into the bilateral.
इससे पूरी मानवता के कल्याण का मार्ग भी प्रशस्त होगा। परस्पर विश्वास, सम्मान और संवेदनशीलता के आधार पर हम अपने संबंधों को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध हैं। एजेंसी चीन द्वारा SCO की सफल अध्यक्षता के लिए मैं आपको बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। एक बार फिर चीन यात्रा के निमंत्रण के लिए और आज की हमारी बैठक के लिए आपका हार्दिक धन्यवाद।
I just wanted to go back to Ambassador Kantha for a moment. Ambassador Kantha, since we are now talking about the 2005 agreement being the basis upon which these talks are taking place, and since you were lead negotiator and it's an agreement I know quite well, Article 7 of that says, and I quote, this is language which you had worked on, in reaching a boundary settlement, the two sides shall safeguard due interests of their settled populations in the border areas. Why is this important? This is important because what China is doing is that they've been building villages in areas, including in areas which we claim to be our own, making villages over there, right, 100 home villages, and then saying that this is ours, and therefore they are going around Article 7 by saying that this is our settled population. I make a village, yeah. I therefore claim I have a population there. Does this not violate the letter and spirit of this?
But just to give you background, why we were keen on, this was our proposal that we must safeguard the interest of us settled population. Because, as you know, Chinese would like us to see Tawang and some other areas. To safeguard that, we pushed them. This was literally the last article of the agreement to be agreed upon. I'm aware of what they're doing, so-called Shaokhang or wellness villages they're setting up. Well, most of them are not on our side of the line of actual control. Boundary, yes, because they are doing in Aksai chain also, areas which we believe belong to us. But in terms of changing the alignment of line of actual control, so far, I don't think there has been any big impact. They are constructing these villages on a much lower scale. We also have our Vibrant Villages program. They are sort of solidifying their control because these are really dual-use villages. They're not just villages. They're also meant to be part of their defense strategy. So we have to monitor it very closely. If they try to develop certain villages on our side of line of actual control, we must prevent that. I'm aware that in Bhutan, they are developing villages on Bhutanese side of the boundary.
Yeah, very much so. Ambassador Kantha, one more question, because I think it's important that we get into the nuances of the boundary discussion between India and China. In Arunachal Pradesh, we have the McMahon line. That is the boundary as India sees it. And now there is a line of actual control in Arunachal Pradesh as well. The part I don't understand is, when did we have an LAC in Arunachal Pradesh which was different from the McMahon line? I thought at one stage they were synonymous.
Yeah, actually, if I could explain, China also agrees that the line of actual control is basically along McMahon line boundary. But we differ on interpretation of McMahon line boundary. Our interpretation is that it's the highest watershed in the area. And this was, Henry McMahon's idea also, as explained in his final memorandum. Whereas China would like us to transpose very small scale maps on current metric maps, which is illogical. This will lead to, some areas which are on our side of LAC being disputed, including, Sumdrongchu Valley. It falls in that category. You are aware of all controversy on Wangtung and what happened at 6 at 7.
So therefore, there is a line of actual control. In other words, up to that area, we dominate, and we don't. And conversely, so there are areas within our interpretation of the boundary which are occupied by the Chinese, which they claim to be their own, and which we don't necessarily physically dispute.
These are very small pockets.
Right.
which we call under adverse possession of China. And also you have, I referred to Sumdurongchu Valley, and there's adjoining Namkachu Valley. There are some area there. There's
Then
another pocket
Longju
called
as well.
Longju is there.
Then some parts of Xiaomi as well. Which is a new
Asafila,
district.
they do enter, but no, I mean, they're not controlling as such, but they do enter. So these are pockets, but by and large, we are controlling up to line of actual control.
Ambassador, great speaking to you. Thanks very much for joining us. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shiv.
Okay, very, very interesting discussion on the micro details of the border between India and China. We don't know if there's going to be any kind of announcement over what the two countries plan to do as far as their long-standing border dispute is concerned. But as of now, the big picture radiating out from Tianjin is this one. Business-like, cordial, polite, very, very formal. None of the, the usual kind of hugs that you see in Prime Minister Modi's diplomacy. It's never happened between these two leaders. We've got to be very clear about that. But this is not a reset. It isn't a reboot either, but a tactical defreeze between the two countries, with both sides seeing benefit in trying to normalize things between the two countries. President Trump has played...
Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And we are just going to play out
on what he said in that, what he said in this meeting, Vishnu.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, I think Vishnu's got some audio playing. Let's just try and...
We'll try and get that audio out for you in a moment.
I think that's what we've already got on air, Vishnu.
Yeah, let's play that.
Let's play out what the Prime Minister has said in that message at the
bilateral. And he tweeted it out just now.
Yeah. Let's play that out.
All right, we'll come to that in a moment, but these are remarks made during the meeting of the Prime Minister with President Xi Jinping. That is out now. We will try and sort of bring you details of that in just a few moments from now.
You guys are just not able to keep...
But let's continue with our programming on this. We will try and get you what the Prime Minister has said. This is important because the meeting now has gone on for... I would suggest the meeting might actually have ended, but we will try and confirm that in a little while from now. Let's listen into what the Prime Minister said.
हमारे गर्मजोशी भरे स्वागत के लिए मैं आपका हृदय से आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। पिछले वर्ष कल्याण में हमारी बहुत ही सार्थक चर्चा हुई थी। हमारे संबंधों को एक सकारात्मक दिशा मिली। सीमा पर डिसएंगेजमेंट के बाद शांति और स्थिरता का माहौल बना हुआ है। हमारे स्पेशल रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स के बीच बॉर्डर मैनेजमेंट के संबंध में सहमति बनी। कैलाश मानसरोवर यात्रा फिर से शुरू हुई। दोनों देशों के बीच डायरेक्ट फ्लाइट भी फिर से शुरू की जा रही है। हमारे सहयोग से दोनों देशों के 2.8 बिलियन लोगों के हित जुड़े हुए हैं। इससे पूरी मानवता के कल्याण का मार्ग भी प्रशस्त होगा। परस्पर विश्वास, सम्मान और संवेदनशीलता के आधार पर हम अपने संबंधों को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध हैं। एजेंसी चीन द्वारा SCO की सफल अध्यक्षता के लिए मैं आपको बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। एक बार फिर चीन यात्रा के निमंत्रण के लिए और आज की हमारी बैठक के लिए आपका हार्दिक धन्यवाद।
All right, so a cordial statement over there from Prime Minister Modi saying that he sort of welcomes working with China closely in a cordial spirit. And we're going to play that out again, listen to a little bit more. But those are just introductory remarks. Einar Tangin joins us as well. Rubinder Sachdev, a foreign policy expert, General KJS Dhillon, as well as Dr. Jayajit Bhattacharya. Thank you all very much for being with us. Einar Tangen, this is the moment that all of us have been waiting for. Your thoughts on the first remarks of Prime Minister Modi, which, in Hindi, he seemed to suggest that both countries need to work together in a conciliatory spirit. I think that's the initial statement. By no means the sum and substance of what has been said, but your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a moment of optics. It's really, I think, sending a very strong message to Washington, D.C. For their kind of arbitrary actions towards India, which I don't think anybody in India can concretely tell me why Donald Trump has turned on a relationship that in his first term he was trying to nurture. That's one part. But the other part is the longer lasting one, and that is the relationship between these countries, but not only these countries. Remember, Donald Trump has put tariffs on 180 countries, including some penguins who are quite confused. So at this juncture, India has an opportunity. It was the one that's India started the non-aligned movement. We are at a time when a bully is, striding the world stage, literally trying to take everyone's lunch money for no apparent reason.
Right.
India can stand up to it. India has been the balancing power both at the SCO and BRICS. And I would suggest that the reason that Washington is acting the way it is that it wants to pummel New Delhi into submission. It's concerned that if India leads the non-aligned world and tells the United States that that's the end of it. You can impose tariffs as much as you want, but they have to be uniform across all nations. You're not going to divide us in that old colonial game of having us go against each other. This would include China and Russia and many others, but it's an opportunity to stand up, to be counted, for Modi to take the mantle of leadership. And I think this is really what keeps Washington up late at night.
I just wanted to introduce Professor Sierra Claire, who also joins us. Go ahead, Chief.
Professor Clegg, welcome, and to all of our guests as well. I see Lieutenant General KJS Dhillon also with us this morning. An important day. On NDTV, we keep it real. We do know that the media in general tends to overhype what can be expected from engagements of this kind, but we keep it realistic. There is cautious optimism. There's some good headway being made, a smiling handshake between two leaders, just 3 months after a mini war between India and Pakistan, where a largely Chinese arsenal was used against India, Chinese intelligence was used, is always going to be good news, because India has consistently said that it is committed to positive relations with China. The Prime Minister has said it at this bilateral as well. Professor Claire, how are you seeing this meeting and what lies ahead?
To make a trade deal with the Trump administration, which the administration continues to engage with India on that, and has shown that they want to ultimately normalize trade relations with India. These tariffs are specifically targeted about the Ukraine war. And, President Trump, that's how he engages in the world. He doesn't apologize for American strength. He embraces it. And India has benefited from that, as have many countries, because he's ended 6 wars in the past 6 months. So you really can't pick and choose when you want to use American strength and when you don't. He wants to end the Ukraine war.
Sierra, I must interrupt. If one of the wars that Trump claims to have ended is the mini war between India and Pakistan, that's just factually not correct. It just didn't happen that way. I mean, it's a ludicrous claim.
Several wars that he's been a key piece in ending or resolving disputes.
Were you including the one between India and Pakistan, which on a weekly basis he says that he ended, when we can tell you as independent journalists, both of whom happen to be covering national security, me for 30 years, Shiv for 25 years, that is not the way it happened. Trump did not bring India to the ceasefire table or Pakistan. It was Pakistan that came to the ceasefire table. There were very important conversations between the US Vice President and Indian leaders over here, but the peace process wasn't because of that. The peace process happened because Pakistan said, let's end it. It's not because America told India, you end it as well. They may have suggested that, look, guys, work it out. But India was not bound by that American call for peace, which was a very decent and expected call for peace. But Trump seems to say that he ended the war. He didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think President Trump says that he ended the war alone, but he certainly includes it as one of the disputes that he was, a key piece in bringing about the resolution of it.
All right. Okay, fair enough. Any further thoughts from Einar Tangen before we move ahead? Einar?
Well, you've heard it. I mean, you're just trying to rewrite history. Trump was not a key player in this. This was something beyond him. And if you start looking at all the quote wars that he's ended, they're still fighting. So you tell me there's lots of rhetoric, but what's the reality? And this is the problem. This idea that she says that the U.S. is not bullying the world when you send out 180 letters, including to penguins, saying that you're putting tariffs on them. This is not a diplomacy. This is not responsible statecraft. This isn't even an economic a solution. It is just pure bullying. The biggest kid in the classroom going around and stealing people's lunch money. It's disgusting.
All right.
We have Xi Jinping saying that the elephant and the dragon should come together. He says it's vital for the elephant and the dragon to come together. We, of course, prefer to call ourselves the tiger, I think, which is more.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with the elephant.
There's nothing
wrong
with it.
The elephant is an immensely powerful.
There's nothing
Shiv
wrong.
and I have had a disagreement about this yesterday. I wanted imagery of an elephant and a dragon, and he insisted that it should be a tiger and a dragon.
I see mind games in that, but let's play out what the Chinese president just said.
相互成就伙伴，实现龙象共舞，应当是中印双方的正确选择。
The world today is swept by one single-centric transformations. The international situation is both fluid and chaotic. China and India are two ancient civilizations in the East, where the